Surprisingly, the Cowboys were buyers and not sellers at the NFL trade deadline on Tuesday, and we'll talk about it today. The Cowboys were very clear during Jerry Jones's radio interview. He said, "We are not selling." That is a little bit unsurprising given how the Cowboys always want to stay relevant. They never want to make it seem like they are folding during a season. So all of that is very unsurprising to me. However, with that being said, I will admit that I wasn't expecting the Cowboys to actually go make a buyer type move. And boy, has it been criticized. The Cowboys went out there and they got wide receiver Jonathan Mingo from the Carolina Panthers on a move that cost them a 4th-round draft pick. Now, they are getting a 7th-round draft pick in return, but naturally, people are thinking, why would they pay so much for Mingo? He has 55 career catches for a little bit over 500 receiving yards in his first 2 years in the league. And honestly, it's not like the Panthers looked at him as a starter right now. They just traded away Deontay Johnson, and somehow they got worse compensation for Deontay Johnson, who is established wide receiver in the NFL, than they did for Mingo. So how does it make sense? And I want to get into that today. And I'll start with making the case for the Cowboys, because I'm sure by now, most of what you have heard from Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and content creators, I'm pretty sure most of it will be negative feedback on the trade. But I'm here to shed some light into the real reason why Jonathan Mingo cost the Cowboys a 4th-round draft pick. Now, this might hurt for some fans that think that these teams, when they negotiate deals, are really looking at film and scouts are arguing, oh man, do you see this release right here? Do you see this catch right here? That's why he's worth a 4th-rounder. That's really not how it works. The biggest reason, the biggest factor in valuing a player is honestly future cash flows. That's how it's worked. The Jimmy Johnson trade chart, man, big reason, a big way of how it worked was future cash flows. How much are you going to play this player and how much do you control him for versus how much is a player getting the draft pick or is going to have to pay another player in the future. So for the Cowboys, this is a player that they liked, that is on a rookie deal, that they will control through 2026, because that is how long his contract goes for, and they get him for a 4th-rounder because he's under contract for a long time, basically. That is what's happening right here. It's not that he's better than Deontay Johnson. It's not that he's better than, say, I don't know, man, like DeAndre Hopkins. It's not that he's better than what other wide receivers have been moved. Hell, Mike Williams just got moved for a 5th-rounder. Mike Williams is better than Jonathan Mingo. Absolutely he is. But he's not under contract through 2026 on a cheap deal because he's a rookie. Jonathan Mingo is. The biggest reason why it cost what it cost is that Jonathan Mingo is on a cheap deal and you can get him until 2026. Now, I'm not saying they didn't pay too much, because probably they did, because it's going to come down to, can they make him a good player? Because so far in the NFL, Jonathan Mingo hasn't been exactly great. So now that becomes the real issue with this move. With that being said, though, I don't hate the deal. I've seen a lot of criticism for this trade, and I get it. Whenever you make a move like this in a season where you're already out of the playoffs, I get why this isn't exactly inspiring, and I get why the Cowboys are getting so much criticism for it. That being said, though, I do think Cowboys Nation might be overreacting a little bit. Here's why. The Cowboys are usually not very proactive. Now, I'm not saying they're being proactive right now, but I don't see this trade as a buyer's move at the NFL deadline because they're trying to get better in 2024. I see this as a move to gain some depth and to gain a player that they might use in 2025, in 2026, when they're going to have a very long list of needs. And this guarantees that at the very least, you're already upgrading the wide receiver room. And hopefully, you get to tap into his upside which the Cowboys believe in because they liked him coming out of college as a second-round draft prospect. He was one of their top 30 visits. They talked about Jonathan Mingo. He was reportedly well-liked within the building. So they're just trying to get a guy whose traits they liked 2 years ago for a fourth-round draft pick, and knowing that they get to keep him for this season and then 2 more seasons after that. That makes me not really hate the move all that much. Now, I know the stats are not great, but I'm also very aware of what the situation is in Carolina. This dude has played with Bryce Young and Andy Dalton at quarterback on a bad offensive line, on a bad offense, on a bad team, on a bad organization. So that makes me pause a little bit when I want to give a lot of criticism to Jonathan Mingo for his numbers. Not to mention, he was always looked at as a developmental player, not as an NFL-ready type prospect. So with all that in mind, do I hate the move? No, I don't hate it at all. Do I think it was a genius move? Nah, I think the Cowboys paid quite a bit. It was a pricey trade, and now it's a lot of pressure on them to develop him and make it all worth it. That is the big problem right now with the Jonathan Mingo trade for me. And I kind of don't love the idea of Jonathan Mingo being on a coaching staff in his first year in the NFL, being on a second one this year, being on a third one as soon as he arrives to Dallas. And I mean that the Panthers overhauled their coaching staffs this year, when they hired Dave Canales. So this is going to be his third staff in 2 years. And chances are he's going to get a fourth staff in 2025. Because we know the Cowboys they're firing the current coaching staff this offseason. That is the most likely outcome to this whole situation. So let's say if we were to grade the trade, I would say, you know what? I'm going to give it a C+. That's what I would say. Now, there is a parenthesis, however. There is a caveat to this conversation, and I'll get to that in a moment. But before I do that, let me talk to you about our friends over at Texas Card House, where you can join the premier poker experience where the thrill of the game meets the excitement of the community. And you know what I know about poker. You got to play it with the right type of people, with the right community. And you can do so at Texas Card House, where you can get a perfect mix of luxury, sophistication, and camaraderie for poker aficionados only at Texas Card House. You can find them in their 6 Texas locations. That includes the Las Colinas and Dallas venues. And you gotta make sure you make the most out of $2 Tuesdays, where you can get $2 draft beers. And if you cannot make it on Tuesday, like today, you can go any other day for the low ball happy hour from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. It is the best way to play poker. It is the best way to have a fun time. Go check it out at Texas Card House. Here is the caveat that I see with this trade. I can sit here and I can be like, you know what? I like the move. I like how they're being proactive. I like that it's not really a buyer's move for 2024. It's for the future. I don't love the compensation, but I also kind of understand the real explanation for it. It's not that they think that he's better than others. It's that it's mostly the contract and the situation. But I also think the concerns that I see around Cowboys Twitter about this being a potential excuse down the road for not taking a number 1 wide receiver in the first round, or a number 2, to have it be behind CeeDee Lamb. With this organization, you cannot rule it out. That is my problem. But that is not the trade itself. That is just us knowing the organization and knowing that might be what this is about. This might be the Cowboys trading for a wide receiver now, so when April comes around and they want to pick a running back instead of a wide receiver in the first with potentially a top 10 draft pick, they can go, well, the thing is, we already made a move for Jonathan Mingo. We got to optimize. We gotta expand. We got to address multiple positions. That would be a problem. That wouldn't be great, because there are going to be some good opportunities for the Cowboys in April if they end up with a top 15, top 10 draft pick. So if that becomes a situation, then of course it changes things. But the trade itself, I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. I'm not going to give it an A+ or anything like that. As I said, I'm going to give it a C+, maybe even a C. But that's the situation with the Cowboys trade deadline. Hope you liked the video, man. Remember, we are here every Sunday and Thursday night live at 8 p.m. Central and catching up with you Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays with quick hitting videos such as this one. Bye-bye.